Hi Internet! This week I was going to try and do a review of a Spawn game for the Dreamcast, but halfway through I decided, this might make a better tie-in segment. So I decided, we'll hold off. I'll watch the movie, read a couple comics, and do one big review of a few different Spawn titles. So I decided to run down to my local store and pick up a game off the shelf, just any game. What did I end up with? PK, Out of the Shadows. Have you ever wanted to play a game about Donald Duck but without actually being Donald Duck? How about if they gave him superpowers and put him in a 3D platforming environment? Sound like fun? Yeah, it's not. It's what it is though. PK. Superhero Donald. But you know, let's think about this logically. A superhero plus a famous Disney character? That's like printing money, right? I mean, right? What could go wrong? When we first start off the game, we're greeted with a cutscene where apparently some aliens are attacking. They don't tell us why or who they are, but there it is. They're attacking. We find Donald, who is apparently some sort of a security guard somewhere, and he falls asleep and has this dream that everyone he knows is talking to him and telling him how terrible he is at basically everything.
Oh, Donald, you've got to control your temper, or I don't know what I'm going to do with you.
What's going on?
Don't get mad at me. You're the one with the temper. And another thing.
Uncle Donald got punished by Daisy again.
I'd like to point out that if a computer screen talked to somebody in real life and told them they were awful, they would be institutionalized. Especially if immediately following that, a green, glowing, disembodied head told them that they were supposed to become a superhero. But you know, Donald's just like, whatever, this is normal, I don't care. We see this head drag Donald into some sort of a lab where, after a hilarious montage of clothes changing, he tells Donald that he's now PK, a superhero who must fight off the aliens. This apparently is also a great reason to change Donald's voice somehow. I don't know why, but it is, and they did it. I don't get it. I feel it's necessary before we go any further to discuss the voiceovers. Seriously, in every cutscene involving speech, the characters' mouths are moving way out of sync with the spoken dialogue. It looks like a 70s kung fu movie, and it is awful.
Area 52? This would be the perfect place for that psycho-scientist Zoster to be stirring up trouble.
Who is this Zoster?
Scientific General Zoster is one of the higher-ranking Avonians. I found some traces of him scanning some data in the laboratory.
As far as story and background, that's pretty much all we get. We're thrown into a world of 3D platforming to stop the aliens and save something. The world, I guess? I don't know. It's never really explained. But who even is PK? I did some research, and here's what I uncovered. Basically, in the late 60s, Italian fans of the Donald Duck comics found Donald to be sad and often portrayed as a loser. So, Guido Martina, Eliza Penna, and Giovan Battista Capri created a special alter ego for Donald and called him Peppernick. The character was a sort of avenger. He would right wrongs and injustices. The character later got picked up all over the world and got different names depending on which country you were in. Super Duck, Fantonald, Duck Avenger, and Super Kvek were all names used by the character. I guess this helps to explain why we have a random superhero version of the character. But what about the name? I mean, surely American youths in the early 2000s wouldn't have this background in this strange, obscure Italian comic book, right? So, you might be asking yourself,
What on earth does PK mean?
well, let me explain. PK means Platyronicus kineticus, which loosely translates in Latin to energy duck. Because when you think Disney, you think Latin lessons. The game is a basic 3D platformer that changes the gameplay up a little bit by forcing you to rescue scientists in a timed manner and collect a certain amount of coins per level. The game makes these things seem important, however you can miss quite a few of each with little to no consequences. However, after the scientist collection tutorial, the game freaked me out by making tons of noise and flashing red lights every time I tried to get near a scientist. It was super creepy. And if you lose a scientist, he melts. Yeah, he turns to liquid. Oh god, what did I do? Oh, well, I guess I'll tap dance on his corpse. Oh, now I feel bad for what I did. Goodbye, cruel world. As a side note, make sure you don't run out of time when trying to collect these fellas, because once they turn to liquid, they don't ever respawn. Even if you die and start the level over, that scientist is still gone. The game has a really nice animated look, and it feels cel-shaded. It lends itself well to the comic feel and the look of the world. I noticed throughout the game some very odd glitches where my character would just turn into a wireframe version of himself, or my bullets seemed to disappear, and this was super frustrating. But I gotta be honest with you, this was not the most frustrating part of the game. There's something far, far more sinister than glitches in the graphics. The controls. I'm not sure how to explain this, but the controls are erratic and indecisive. At times they're tight and intuitive, but other times it feels like your character completely ignores your button presses. This is especially frustrating because some genius decided that you only needed to use 4 buttons for the entire game. That's right, you have all these buttons, and they're only using 4. In an incredible stroke of extra genius that day, they decided to make the fire button and the action button the same button. That's right, this doesn't seem that bad, but let's take a look at this. Now what I need to do here is jump out towards that green orb and grab it with my laser grappling hook. However, shoot and hook use the same button. It's kind of up to the game to decide which one I'm actually trying to accomplish. Sometimes this leads to really crazy stuff, like I'll completely miss a green point and it'll grapple the one behind it for some reason. This is a big problem, as jumping and climbing are major parts of any platform game. And you're thinking, hey, this is a kid's game, cut it some slack. No, this is inexcusable. There's no excuse for this game, none at all, and let me explain to you why. First, let me go over a few games that came out around the same time that contain 3D platforming sections. Max Payne, Tomb Raider 1 through 4, Half-Life, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and Conker's Bad Fur Day. Oh, but NW3K, you say? These were games made for older game players. They're not quite in the same genre. They're not cartoony. Maybe you should pick something that's a little closer to what we're playing here. Okay. How about Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, Crash Bandicoot 1 through 3, Donkey Kong 64, Mario 64, and Bomberman 64? But then you say, oh, Nitro Weasel 3K, maybe it was a small indie developer. Maybe they were still learning how to make a precise and advanced game. Wrong again. Disney Interactive and Ubisoft were both attached to this project. You know what Ubisoft put out in '99? Rayman 2. And if you look online, it's still considered to be a great 3D platformer with solid controls. Wanna know what Disney Interactive was working on? Came out the same year? Kingdom friggin' Hearts. That's right, Kingdom Hearts. There is no excuse. You put Kingdom Hearts out the same year that this game came out. So angry. All those games at least made a stride in the right direction. And yes, some of the cameras were not perfect and the controls weren't quite right, but they all made huge strides in their time. This game is from 2002. The GameCube controller has 2 sticks. You'd think they could at least got the camera right, but no. The camera is permanently locked in place. We can adjust where the position is by pressing the lock-on button, which is the R button. The problem with this is sometimes you need to move around a corner and an enemy is spawned that you can't see. He has a chance to attack you before you even see the new hallway. This is especially frustrating when you have to have full life to charge up some of your weapons and to use some of your attacks on enemies who have shields. There are large sections where the view swaps from 3D to a 2D style and the environment is still in 3D. This means that you're expected to move forward, backward, left, and right on what appears to be a 2D surface that is actually 3. This forces missteps and frustrating deaths. All of these things make the game frustrating and much less fun. But none of these things even come close to that door unlocking minigame. I could have left this game here and said it was a mediocre platformer with some camera issues, but it's playable. If it wasn't for these mini-games. I hate this little flying robot. Let me explain to you how this plays out. Basically, the robot moves forward at a constant speed. You have a brake button, but you also have a time limit. This means using the brake button could force you to run out of time, so forget using it unless you need to strafe around some random wall they decide to throw in your way. The ship can only move on a 90-degree angle, which means if you get stuck in a corner, you have to turn it around, which takes an extra move just to get the ship turned around in the correct direction. It's clunky, the controls don't always work, and sometimes the thing just glitches out and wastes your time while you're trying to get it unstuck. This game is awkward and it alienates all possible players. Seriously, Donald really isn't even in it. His voice has changed, he doesn't look like Donald, he doesn't act like Donald, except for in the intro. So, if you wanted a Donald Duck game, this isn't your game. If you like 3D platforming, well, there are much older games that play much better and had a much bigger impact on the genre than this one. This game only takes 3 to 4 hours to complete and it only has 2 bosses, which is not really a challenge for any seasoned gamer or fan of the genre. On the topic of challenge, if I was a kid, I would find this game infuriating. The controls, coupled with a sense of panic in certain portions, make it stressful and unfun. I could see a younger version of me dropping a 4-letter fury on this game and rage quitting. This is not even close to the worst game I've ever played. However, the frustration level does not match the payoff. No matter who you are, I can't say I would recommend this game. I only paid $6 for it and it feels like I wasted 3 hours for nothing. I wouldn't say I hate it. I'm sure someone out there would appreciate it. Maybe it's a niche thing, maybe only the fans of the comics would enjoy it, which I'm not, so I just don't see the appeal. Alright, well thanks guys for watching my video. You know I always appreciate any of you who take the time out of your day to watch my video. It means the world to me, and you guys are a big part of the reason why I try to put these out once a week if I can. If you aren't sick of me yet, why don't you click up here, check out my Mazes and Monsters video from last week. It's a terrible made-for-TV movie starring Tom Hanks. This is awful. Awful. Don't forget to add me on Facebook and Twitter if you don't want to miss any of my other ramblings that I choose not to put in videos. Because, you know, think things when I'm not on camera, too. Also, like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, don't forget that if you put a comment on one of my videos and I see you in real life ever, it's good for one free high five, and that offer is good for life, whether I'm still running this channel or not. So make sure that if you comment on something and you see me at a convention or you see me out in the streets, remember, come up and ask for your high five. Well, that wraps up another video for me, so thanks for watching and bye, Internet. Bye.